Okay, again, so we're referring to talking about Naomi. Naomi, she's a widow and she lost her two sons, and her daughters-in-law are widows also. So wherefore she, Naomi, went forth out of the place where she was, and her two daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah. Now in verses 8 and 9, this is the first time she is telling her daughters-in-law to return. She is giving them her blessing. Where do the blessings come from? Her father. So the Lord, as Naomi correctly notes in both verses. Verse 8, and Naomi said unto each of her two daughters-in-law, Go, return each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. When she's referring to the dead, she's of course referring to their husbands, Naomi's sons. Dealt is number 6213, asa, work or produced, and it's used 13 times in Ruth. Naomi's daughter-in-law, of course, 13 in biblical numerics is for rebellion. How's there going to be a little rebellion? Just follow along. Naomi's daughter-in-law loved the dead, their husbands, and with me, meaning Naomi. Okay, so the daughters, they were good wives to their husbands, and they were good daughters-in-law to their mother-in-law. Verse 9. Again, Naomi is addressing her daughters-in-law. The Lord grant you that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. Rest is number 4496, and 4494 it's not the same as number 8252 used in Ruth chapter 3 verse 18. And they, meaning the two daughters-in-law, Ruth and Orpah, they said unto her, Naomi, surely we will return with thee unto thy people. So they're refusing to go. Again, that's the rebellion part. Okay, so they are giving quite a testimony, tennis for testimony, of their love for Naomi. I mean, they could be free to go look for other husbands, and they want to take care of their mother-in-law. So in verses 11 through 13, Naomi is again going to tell her daughters-in-law to return for the second time. Verse 11, and Naomi said, Turn again, my daughters. Why will ye go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? So Naomi is explaining to her daughters-in-law that she's past childbearing age. So she'll remember history, how Sarah, among others, either past childbearing age or barren, did indeed have children. The blessings came from the Lord. So right now, I mean, Naomi, she's giving quite a testimony, isn't she? She's not worried about herself. She's worrying about her daughters. Verse 12, Turn again, my daughters, go ye your way, for I am too old to have an husband. If I should say I have hope, if shall I have a husband also tonight, and should also bear sons. So when she's saying, if I should have, she is saying, if. I should have said, because all things are possible with God. Verse 13, would ye tarry for them till they were grown? Would you stay for them from having husbands? Nay. You know, she wants them to, to go and live out their lives, maybe find other husbands. You live with your husband till death do you part. They're widows, and they're free to marry others. My daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord is gone out against me. Tarry means wait. So now if you remember, in what was that about waiting for another child? In Genesis 38, Tamar had married Judah's son Er, and Er had died. Onan, his brother, married Tamar, but he knew his seed would be in the name of his brother, so he spilt it. Okay, when, I think it's pretty much self-explanatory. When you're spilling your sperm, it's not, he did not let it go into the womb of his wife. So that displeased the Lord, and he slew Onan. Tamar then was told to wait for the younger brother, Shelah, kind of like Selah in Psalms, don't you think? And when he was grown, Shelah would marry her. And Tamar, she was obedient and waited, but Judah lied. It's funny how in biblical stories, lots of lies going on. So the rest of the story is Tamar covered her face with a veil, and when Judah came upon her, Judah thought Tamar was a harlot. And it was through their union, because he, you can understand, through their union, they had sex, and Judah impregnated his former daughter-in-law. And it was through their union and generations to follow that Boaz came, the man who we're going to talk about later in this book of Ruth, who will marry Ruth. So the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. So Naomi feels that the hand of the Lord had gone out against her, but it did not. So now on a personal note, Jeremy's father did not, I'm talking about my biological son, he did not take responsibility, and Jeremy's mother had told me she felt very much alone. So while we miss Jeremy in the flesh, it's wise for us to wait for any blessings that will come out of his flesh death. The hand of the Lord is not against us. The Lord is in complete control, and his plan is much wiser and clearer than any of his best plans. And Naomi is going to find this out later on. So we'll pick it up in verse 14 in the next study.